yet, try explaining this crazy weather, pouring rain literally on one side and it's super sunny on the other. And what's going on today? I guess this was kind of interesting. Apparently there's this world first air mobility vertiport that's being debuted. Here it says, Supernal, an urban airport, debut world's first functional advanced air mobility vertiport. Supernal, an urban airport, today announced the debut of Air 1, Urban Airport's proprietary deployable operations hub for manned and unmanned vehicles, marking the first functional multi-modal infrastructure hub equipped to handle future electric air travel. The vertiport is open for public visitation in Coventry, UK, and will be redeployed in additional cities worldwide later this year to continue highlighting the future advanced air mobility passenger journeys and operations firsthand. So you can see in a lot of the pictures and stuff too, it looks like it's very oriented to things such as electric type vehicles. And it says the Air 1 activation is an important step for the advanced air mobility industry and demonstrates how eVTOLs can easily integrate the existing transportation networks to address local needs. Will it improve, I guess, overall of the difficulties we have nowadays, I guess, in terms of various transportation solutions? It says the reality is no single mode of transportation, current or future, can solve cities' traffic and congestion challenges. Supernal is working with partners like Urban Airport to design infrastructure that brings multiple modes of transportation together under one roof and enable AAM to reach its full potential. It does look very futuristic overall. I know it makes me wonder too, just in terms of vehicles, a lot more people are using things like electric scooters and all that, and some people, they're even going down the streets I see constantly with those one-wheelers. It makes me wonder if those are going to become more common. I know in some places there's legalities to it. For example, electric bikes are actually allowed in a lot of places, but depending, I guess, on the type and the power, it could be illegal. So it makes me wonder if stuff like that will be changed as well. If you have all the changes like here for things like, I guess, eventually in the future, air mobility for things like drones and all that too. And I was just catching up to see what's going to happen to Twitter now that they're sold to Elon Musk and it's going to be privatized, I guess. There is a debate of, is he going to be able to, I guess, change it the way he envisions in terms of, like, let's just say free speech and all that, where you can talk about anything. But he clarified today here, it says, by quote, free speech, I simply mean that which matches the law. I'm against censorship that goes far beyond the law. If people want less free speech, they will ask government to pass laws to that effect. Therefore, going beyond the law is contrary to the will of the people. So I would gather from that, it should be basic, from what I understand, what most people did before anyways. It was more along the lines of, if you just like have an opinion or something like that, you talk about it. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, you're free to disagree, correct? But the second people start doing things, for example, such as threatening other people, say, oh, I'm gonna go to this place and kill this person, so to speak, all people of this, I don't know, background or whatever should die, then that's a little different. Or vice versa, I guess. If people are using it in a malicious way, I don't know, stealing ID and all that, then I would imagine that would justify like a ban per se. So with that, it was kind of interesting actually just reading how some people are going to leave and the argument that people are having in regards to whether or not he's going to make it worse or better. And this one was kind of interesting because here this person wrote, I'll be giving some serious thoughts to leaving Twitter for good in the near future. I do not have a good feeling about where this platform is heading. Now, for some reason, this one in particular was, I don't know, in the trending tab and so forth. Since he's a celebrity wrestler, you'd get more attention and all that. And so it's kind of interesting just reading the responses. Like this guy here first says, I'm with you, brother. Don't need an overlord controlling the narrative on social media. So that's the perspective on how it's a billionaire buying out a platform where a lot of people, I guess, express their thoughts and all that. And if he feels like it, he could say, I don't know, silence this or that. And then this guy says, nope, you're absolutely wrong. Freedom of speech means that the government can't restrict your speech. You can speak freely in a public park, on a public street, etc. It does not apply to a business regulating content on a platform. They can legally regulate it as they wish. That was the argument before too, I heard, where a lot of people would say, well, any platform could, I guess, censor whoever they wish. It's up to them. And then this guy here says, his debate in a town square analogy falls apart the second that he lets the people who want to debate why racism is acceptable and assaulting women is okay into the town square, or even contemplating letting back people who got kicked off for inciting hatred and violence. So another interesting perspective of, can you truly allow everything in terms of conversations and all that, or does there need to be restrictions? Like, I guess if someone is trying to incite violence, like they say. So in reading all this, it's kind of interesting to think about because it doesn't make sense in many ways. Like, for example, with the first comment, the person expressed how he doesn't want someone, I guess, controlling the narrative on social media. Now, why that doesn't make sense to me is because even for someone who's just looking at everything from a neutral standpoint, I can clearly see there's always certain sides or certain types of opinions that get banned, suppressed, and so forth nowadays. I mean, it's pretty evident, especially on platforms like, let's just say, a Twitter and all that. So, in context to the conversation here, if the worry is, oh no, the platform is going to become something that's going to start censoring people of certain views, how can you deny that's not already happening right now as well? The only argument you can make, to my understanding, is you could say he's going to start censoring people that he doesn't like, but that's up for debate in general. But to say, like, here you're worried that people are going to start getting censored and all that, people are going to get kicked off or whatever, it's already happening right now to my understanding. I don't see how you can deny that. That's kind of weird in my opinion. I was really trying to think of these points here where some people would say a platform doesn't have the responsibility to, I guess, cater to anyone. They can host or whatever, whoever they wish. So if you want to talk about this or that, then you go over there, vice versa. But then the argument where this guy brings up on how if it starts allowing things like, I guess, racism, those types of speeches and all that, then this town square analogy falls flat. I'm just trying to think there again, just trying to view it from a neutral standpoint as much as possible in that case, because it talks about things like racism and stuff too. I'm just thinking it for myself. Let's just pretend there's someone there who is a racist 100%, no and ifs or buts. And let's just say the person starts attacking me with all these ridiculous things that aren't even true. It's just based on, I guess, fear and all that. Do you think that person should be allowed there to say that to me, for example? Even though, again, we're just concluding here, the person is 100% racist. I don't think it's as straightforward as saying, okay, that guy should be banned, period, because it really depends on context. It's no different than those conversations before where people were saying they should ban various literatures of history, like literally history books and all that, I guess, because they showed you how life was like before. Now, in that case, I would say, if in that context, it should be allowed, I guess, shouldn't it? Because it's kind of like in an educational way for people to learn as well. Or like in this case, if there's a debate, let's just say between me and a quote racist, we're gonna hear it out. I'm gonna debate you based on the facts and all that. Would you actually allow that? In my opinion, if it's done like in an educational way, that's, I guess you could say, non-violent and so forth, I would kind of be inclined to say it might educate people to be not racist, if that's the right way to say it, versus if it's someone that's quote racist, all they do is say, I'm gonna threaten to kill you, this and that. That's a little different. So I don't think it's as straightforward in that sense. Because something to really think about, especially during these times, I've noticed in terms of people promoting, I guess, hatred and violence, in some cases, it really depends on who's in charge, because what they consider as hatred and violence may be nothing more than people just expressing, for example, how they dislike a certain situation and all that, and it is more about censorship. So how do you dictate, for example, who's going to determine right versus wrong if that conversation isn't going to be allowed? Like, for example, in recent times, Shanghai has had that crazy lockdown still, where people are literally starving. They're not allowed to go to grocery stores or anything like that. The economy is pretty much like closed. And here it says, Shanghai, censors try to block video about lockdown conditions. Chinese internet authorities are trying to block a popular video highlighting the impact of Shanghai's 5-week lockdown on its residents. The clip features audios of citizens complaining about their conditions, lack of food, and poor medical care. Officials' attempts to remove it have triggered a backlash on Chinese sites. Shanghai's 25 million residents have been shut in their homes for weeks, while officials try to contain a severe COVID-19 outbreak. The 6-minute montage features audio clips of local population criticizing insufficient food supplies and complaining about poor medical conditions. With some of the quotes, like people saying, "We haven't eaten for days now," one person can be heard pleading. "The virus can't kill us, starvation can," another man says. The video titled "The Voice of April" was being widely shared on popular Chinese platforms Weibo and WeChat. But on Saturday, internet authorities began trying to take it down, battling with rebellious users who were posting new copies elsewhere on the sites. So like there, it's a completely different culture, but they could essentially say, well, just the fact that you, quote, criticize us and our plan, like a communist party, we consider that hate speech, so that's it, you're gone. How would you determine, like there, what is right, what is wrong, and so forth, if you don't allow that conversation in general? Now, obviously, people here in North America would probably consider, oh, that's crazy. Now, for sure, that's not hate speech. People are just expressing an opinion. But in reality, you can argue it's being done in the same way with various topics here, if you really think about it, where because someone doesn't like it, now they'll automatically say, oh, this person's promoting hate speech or whatever, so let's ban it all. So how can you have the balance there, especially like in this case, if let's just say like a communist party or something like that is going crazy. So with this example here, I think that shows it's not as straightforward in terms of just saying, oh, get rid of this or that, problem solved. Because ultimately, if you don't really look at it from a neutral standpoint, when does it end? It's kind of like what I say many times when it comes to hobbies. Just because I don't do a particular activity per se, if someone tells me ban it all is for your, quote, safety, I have to look at it from a neutral standpoint. Listen to their side of the story, find out what's going on. If ultimately what they're doing is perfectly safe, then I don't see why you should, quote, ban it. Otherwise, it'll be no different than someone coming after me when I say, hey, what I'm doing is perfectly safe and all that. I'm not doing anything wrong. It should be the same thing. So just saying immediately get rid of this and that, I don't think that's the way to go, because it'll never end, in my opinion, when you don't have kind of like this line that's drawn. Alright, see you guys later.